What is going on, everybody, and welcome back. So the reason I'm bundled up at the end of March is because it's freezing outside. I'm still trying to get some work in while I can, though. I need to work on the Honda for sure, but I've got like this car audio bug right now that's it's going crazy inside of me. So I got this like need to work on my audio system in my truck, just because, you know, I'm just craving that that sound quality. I go through phases of stuff, and I'm in one of those car audio phases. My fiance, she wants a nice sound system in her Subaru. She's been wanting that since she got the car, probably almost 2 years ago now. So I really want to give her that. So we're gonna work on car audio stuff for a while. Hopefully you guys can bear it. But the Honda stuff will return, and I'll get this thing back on the road soon enough. Don't worry about that. But I'm gonna make a few car audio videos here and there in the process, just because that's what I'm up to. So I just want to keep you guys up to date on everything that I do. So, you know, I think it's all cool stuff to me, and I think some of you guys will find it interesting too if you give it a chance. But anyway, the car audio stuff is pretty big in my life right now. So I'm currently redoing the system on my Avalanche. So I'll show you guys what everything looks like right now and what I have in there currently. Right now, I'm gonna go outside. We'll open up the garage. But I got pretty much my whole interior is all apart here and all over the ground, all the wiring. This is Naomi's car here. But over here, I'll show you guys what I got going on in the truck. So for audio, I have component speakers in the doors. So I've got Morel Maximo 6s in the doors, and I have the tweeters up in the pillars up here, which these are actually Alpine tweeters. I took them from my old setup. I like how bright they were. They're probably totally shot now. They're like 10 years old. I'm sure they're worn out. These are worn out. They've been in here for at least 4 years. They've been played. They were in my old Silverado, and they're in here. So they're due for replacement. They're a paper cone. At a certain point, they wear out. So those are ready to go. And then let me just unlock it here. In the rear, what I have going on is this Alpine amplifier right here, which I've had since I started the system. So this is probably also almost 10 years old, 8 to 10 years old. And this was a 4-channel plus a mono, so like a 5-channel. And I used to power my 210s with this, but the sub channel on this hasn't really powered anything in a while. But regardless, this amplifier on the other side that I'll show you guys, that's the sub amp. So this is now the 4-channel that's bridged to power the front channel. I think it sounds like 175 bridged, or maybe less than that, to the front component speakers. In the rear, I have nothing powered up in here door speakers wise. But I used to have a 12-inch sub that went across the back here, and I am ditching that in favor of an 8-inch sub that I made fit inside of the center console. So I'm going to power that with the same amplifier that was powering the other one. But essentially I have this precision power amp over here, which is about 1,000 watt amp. It'll do a little bit more than that at 1 ohm, but yeah, for our purposes, we're going to do a 2 ohm load on our dual 4 ohm 8-inch subwoofer, and that should bring us to plenty of extra wattage. I really only should run it at 500 or 600 watts. These Sundowns are rated for 500, the 8-inch Sundown, which is actually inside of the console at this point in time right now. So if you take this off, you can see that I've got the port right there, and it kind of stretches throughout the whole console. You can see down in that lower section there's wood in there. I had to cut that piece. I may cut it a little more. Everything I gotta fine tune, but I want to make some brackets that mount this thing. So I may think about what I'm gonna do with these brackets right now, and try to create something that I can bolt to here and also bolt into the floor so that this is stable and doesn't go anywhere. I don't want to have any issues with it. So yeah, I'm going to put my subwoofer in here. This is actually my fiance's sub that I was using to mock everything up. My sub should be coming today. So I'm going to pull this whole console out, and I'll show you guys the box and what all went into making that, because that's all custom. I kind of neglected to show that, but I'm going to, you know, kind of go over it now and talk about how I designed it and the program that I used to tune it and create the port and all that stuff, because that's all pretty cool stuff. I had the whole whiteboard all marked up at a time. I was going in math mode down there, even though I never was very good at math. When it's for something I want to do, you know, it's worth it. So yeah, it was pretty cool. But I'm gonna take this thing all apart and I'll show you guys what's going on. So I removed the console, and this is the box, so you can see the general shape of things, and you see where the sub is. So as it sits right here, that's pretty much where it's gonna sit. So it has a good amount of room to throw. And it's not like it's gonna throw that far, so the excursion is not like an inch on it. So there's plenty of room for it to sit there. I gotta just box off this here, section here. This used to go to the rear AC vents and rear heat vents in the console, but those are now gone, obviously, because I couldn't fit them with this giant box. So I'm gonna wall this off somehow. I'll glue something on there, and then that way I don't have to worry about that. And so I just want to build some kind of bracketry, probably up front here and in the rear, just to mount this thing, so I can have, you know, be sure that it's securely fastened and it's not going to go anywhere in the event of a collision. But I have the terminals here that come out, and the wire goes down and under the carpet. But I'll show you guys the port and everything once I get it all taken out and I get the subwoofer out of it. I can show you guys the slot port that comes all the way to here. And this is tuned for about 37 hertz, this box. So it's not tuned super low, just because I didn't have the space. And the port width and the port length and all those measurements come into account when designing it, so I just had to tune it for 37. So I'll explain all that in a little bit. But yeah, that's the box. So this is the box outside of the truck. So I was just going to go through and explain the basics of designing a box. There's a program that you use, it's called WinISD, and it helps you to design a box, and you got to keep a few things in mind. There's a recommended tuning frequency, a recommended box size, and based on those things you have to kind of decide what you want to do. I mean, if you're going to do a sealed box, certain subwoofers are meant for sealed boxes. There's a calculation for that, but I won't get into all that. I don't even know anything about that, but I know this is a good ported subwoofer. It's a Sundown Sa8. This is the V3. This one in particular is a dual 2 ohm voice coil, so this one's going to be wired down to 1 ohm in my fiance's subwoofer box that I've yet to build over there and put into back of her Subaru. This sub's coming out because I was just using it for test purposes, but yeah, I'm gonna do a dual 4 ohm, which I'm gonna wire down to 2 ohm because I have a bit more amplifier and I can run it at 2 ohm, I think, and I should get hopefully a bit better response, and it may suck a little bit more power. It's not as efficient as 1 ohm, but the speaker should be more defined and less reverberation, just because I already have the amp for it. Anyway, otherwise I think 1 ohm's good because it's good for efficient powering of stuff. So that's what we're gonna do in her car. But anyway, this box is tuned for about 37 hertz, like I said. So what you're doing with that is you're kind of trying to balance the box size with the tuning frequency and also the port length. So when you have a box this size, this is about 0.68 cubic feet. That's kind of what I came to after the displacement of the port and everything. What you can see, the port in here is actually this whole section right here, and then up to here is all of the port itself. So the sub is mounted in this little cabin right here, and then this whole area here is sealed off in this little chamber. I rounded this edge here, and I also rounded these edges, and I rounded this edge here on this and the outside of the port to try to prevent chuffing. And that's the other constraint that you're trying to satisfy. So you want to make sure that you have the correct size box along with the correct length port, which is going to be the inside measurement of this actual airspace here that you have. So I have a 3/4 plate on the bottom here, and then this piece. So my port really is about this wide. I believe it's 1.25 inches on the width here, if my memory serves me correctly, about 1.25 inches. So I'm a little over the recommended 9 square port inches that they recommend. So they recommend like an area for the port, but this particular box design is really prone to chuffing, which is basically port noise. So when you have air that rushes in and out of this box, you can get a lot of air noise depending on how fast the air moves. So they say generally you want to keep the meters per second under 30, or I guess under 40, and this ended up coming in right above 30 just because of the way I have the box set up, and it has to fit inside of the console, so I had to keep those constraints in mind. And also this long of a port is difficult with this box because, you know, you can see I kind of ran out of room here into the sub chamber. That's about as long as I could make the port realistically and still have this function as a ported box. I do think it sounds pretty good for what it is. This is the first box I designed myself, and it's pretty complicated, but WinISD is the true hero there. That's what you kind of got to use, and once you understand all the parameters and everything, you put in your subwoofer specs and all that, it'll really make more sense. But anyway, I'll pull the sub out, show you guys the port inside and stuff like that, and we can get ready to throw the other subwoofer in here. And I gotta make some kind of brackets that are gonna mount this thing into the truck. So yeah, I'm gonna get started on some of that stuff, and yeah, hopefully you guys find this stuff interesting. I definitely do. It's a pretty good challenge for me. I don't necessarily consider myself an expert at this. I've only built one other subwoofer box that was intricate, and I had someone else design that one for me. That was that 12-inch sub box, which is for sale. So if anybody wants it, hit me up. Inside the box you have the top chamber like I was talking about, and that is where it is sealed off, and on the lower section, which is hard for you to see in there, if I were to do this, you could see the light coming through, and that's how you know that's the port side. So yeah, you can see it's nice and thin all the way through there, 1.25 inches, consistent. Comes out to this side over here, and that's that. So it's pretty cool. It definitely sounds pretty good. I don't really hear a lot of port noise, so I'm happy about that. I haven't really got it all tuned up 100% yet. The size of the driver on this thing, I mean, they're just beasts. These things just handle a ton of wattage, like way over what they're rated for, you know, especially SPL stuff. They do really loud burps and stuff like that, but I'm just going to use this to play some really nice low end, and just as good as I can with the box that I created here. And I think this is a really good bang for your buck sub, and it's going to last. So what I'm doing here is just kind of cutting some pieces of this sound dampening material. It's Noiko sound deadening. You'll see the brand on here. Kind of the cheaper stuff on Amazon. This is great for sound dampening. I bought the SoundSkin stuff just for the doors because that's where I'm going to go crazy, but anything I want to just keep from resonating and rattling, I'm just going to put it on all these plastics. It makes everything a lot heavier. The only thing that's rattling in here are these, but once these are tight, these should not rattle. I don't think I have to worry about anything with these as of right yet. I could put a little something on them, but it's a bad example because they all rattle. But something like this, I'm going to do the bottom side of this because this sits in here right over top of the sub, and I think these things might rattle, and it might rattle what's in there. Change, or I probably won't put change in there to be honest because I don't really do that, but I'm still going to sound deaden the bottom of these flat panels here so they don't resonate. And yeah, just things like that I can try to keep from vibrating. Should hopefully help, you know, just piece here, and on the flat panels inside of here, I may use up a decent amount of this stuff. I'm going to add a little bit of weight, but hopefully it should keep the whole console from vibrating. just got done covering the back side of this panel right here. So I've gone ahead and put some dampening material on the whole exterior here, and then the areas I couldn't get on the outside I got on the inside. So it's looking pretty good. Got pretty decent coverage on a lot of the things I wanted to. Seems pretty solid. The only thing that rattles are these little screws, which I'm going to try to put some screws in here and tighten them and make sure that they don't rattle. If they do, I'm going to have to figure out something to put in here. These areas where the clips go, I may put a little bit of fabric tape on the clips, try to keep that from rattling. Just want to try to keep everything from vibrating. So we're good here. I did, some miscellaneous stuff on the back of here. Probably not going to make that much of a difference, but hopefully between all this stuff being dampened should help somewhat. At least I know that it's the best that it can be. That's what matters to me. So my amplifier came in. This is for my door speakers right here. It's Pioneer, rated really well. Puts out more than rated amperage for the most part, and watts rather. So I got my sub here. Sundown Audio Sa8. It's a dual 4-ohm setup, so it should be pretty solid. I'm excited to get this guy mounted and powered up. So I got my subwoofer here. I don't know if I showed it yet, but I'm remaking the wires here. I've got these nice ring terminals that I got, and I put a really nice crimp on them from this hydraulic crimper that I have that I recommend. If you're doing anything car audio related, you need to get a hydraulic crimper, just because you can't get a professional crimp like that without this tool, so it's just nice to have, and it makes all the jobs come out really professional. Everything looks really nice. So I'm going to do this other side here, and then we'll wire the sub in and get it all screwed down into the box. So I shouldn't have to do anything, because I think this rubber thing here is the gasket that they give you. So I just got to fire some screws in here. I'll have to get some 3/4 sheetrock screws and send it in. And we'll send it right into this nice box. And I'm going to bolt the connections up right here. So that's kind of where everything's going to go. And hopefully the wires don't rattle too much. Alright, so might be overkill, but this is what I got going on here. Yeah, got 2 to each. This is a parallel wiring setup, so all the power that's fed in there is going to be divided here. It's going to split between the 2 voice coils, and essentially what that means is it's going to be wired into 2-ohm configuration. So it's a dual 4-ohm subwoofer. Wired in parallel is going to be 2 ohms, so it'll be a 2 ohm for the sub channel, which my amp is stable down to 1 ohm, so that should be fine. And yeah, so I'm pretty excited. It's all set to go in, so I'm gonna put it in, line up the couple of holes that I already had in, just a couple of screws, and throw some more in there and get this thing solidly mounted. First I'm gonna hit this with some of that tape though, like I was talking about. See if I can just try to quiet all the noise that these are gonna make. But yeah, that's the finished product. So I made this piece here. This should work to block off the heater that I deleted. I got rid of the vents. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I got rid of the vents in the rear to the ductwork. I just didn't have enough room for them with the size box I was trying to build, so I ditched it. So I'm blocking it off, and I have this guy right here who was the gasket for the original pipe here, and I'm just going to try to glue it to this piece. And then I got some self-tappers in there that I'm going to run into the stock heater case, and hopefully they work. Hopefully they're long enough. I could always run some longer ones if they're not flying, but we'll see how these go. I'm going to try to glue this on, and then we'll go screw it in. So I got everything kind of mocked up in here. I've been driving around with it for a few days. Every step of the way I've kind of been throwing it in the truck just to make sure that it fits still, and that it jams, and it does. It does sound good. It's not, gonna impress any bass heads, but I think for the most part, it sounds really nice. Like you can only do so much with a single 8 in a small box like this, with like just minimum size restrictions. Like there's a lot of restrictions when it comes to this kind of box, just based on how small it is. The only way to get the tuning frequency lower is to create more port area, and to make more port area you need more port length, and to get more port length you need a longer box, and to have a longer box is going to make the box bigger, and that changes things, and I just only have so much room. So at a certain point you just got to give in, and you give in a little bit to hitting those super low notes. So I'm not going to hit like those 33, 34 notes like really high. Like it might hit it, but it's not going to hit it that well, and I'm probably not going to, you don't hear it like you would have heard it with my old sub. That thing was tuned down to like 33 hertz, so you really could hear like those low lows when it would go down to it. But there's some notes that this sub totally just can't play them, and that's just the nature of what we're doing. But tuning to 37 hertz is okay, and I'll miss them, but it's fine. I'll get used to it, and I'm fine with it because I have my rear seats back, and I have the under seat area with the amps. However, that's no biggie, because if I fold them down I can still use the functionality of the Avalanche, which is the blow-through back door. I don't know if you guys know, but Avalanches, if you're not familiar, have this cool feature that I have been unable to use. See, this is the sub amp here, but now what I can do, fold that down, and I have access to the blow-through, which is this section of the vehicle actually comes down, which is pretty cool. So if you fold that seat down, essentially, I got pulled from that side, but this folds down, and then you can take the glass out, and you have this whole thing could be open potentially, or you could just take the glass out, or just take this section out, leave the glass in, and you have free access into the bed from here, which is pretty cool. Not always necessary, but there are some scenarios where it comes in handy. So yeah, that's a nice thing about the Avalanche. But you can put really long boards in here with no problem, and close the gate and lock everything up at the same time. But yeah, trying to keep that functionality of the vehicle, because that is like the whole point. So based on that, I'm doing a decent job. So this thing fits really well, and all I got to do now is bolt it. So I made these brackets yesterday, I'll show you guys, but I'm going to use those to try to bolt to this section of carpet that I cut out over here, and I'm just going to screw to the box and screw to the floor. Probably just going to use self-tappers, to be honest, because no need to get crazy. I think it's fine. The only thing I'm holding it from is slamming into this section over here in the event of an accident, because I think with the screws there, it'll be fine for anything, even hard stopping. I think it'll be fine. And I think I plan to, I know I plan to screw it here too in all these sections. So I'm going to fire screws into the box here and here, and on the other side as well, just to keep everything in the console and the box from shifting inside of the console. I'm going to do that. And then up front, I really think it's tight enough for me to just leave it as it is. I don't need to do anything as far as a mount, because it won't sway side to side because it fits so tight in there, and the console's bolted here and here. So in reality, the console is not going to go anywhere, and neither is the box. So I think we're good on all of that, especially after I mount it solid in the back here. Then it can't slide forward, and I'll screw it here and here, and that's my mounting procedure here. That's how I'm going to do this. And I should be able to, hopefully, if I have this piece off, which I'll have to take off, I should be able to put this in place without this on there pretty easily. So I just got to remember to take this off, which has a switch in it, which is kind of annoying. So every time I take that off, I have to contend with those wires. But yeah, it's just, I got so many mods done to this thing, it just gets annoying at a certain point. That's how every ridiculous project car is, that you just do everything to. But yeah, so anyway, I'm gonna bolt this thing in, but first I gotta figure out the wiring loom, because I would like to have the functionality of this thing still. I'd like to put a wire to this, although looks kind of funny with a big hole in it. I still want to be able to use this, and I still want to be able to use my two front ones. I have one lighter here. Actually, yeah, the pieces right here, which kind of fits. I may have to trim it more, but yeah, this and this I would need to wire in. So I'm gonna essentially slim this guy down. I was gonna keep this whole big harness here, but I think this is all just a bundle of wires that I just don't have a room, like a good spot for. So I think I'm probably just going to cut most of the wires back to like here, and then just butt connect the harness that used to hook up here all the way over there, and hopefully it reaches all the way here. I guess I gotta figure that out first, but yeah, I'm just gonna do some wiring stuff right now. So I got everything wired in, little voltmeter, USB, and the other cigarette lighter, and I have the other wire running to the back here with the third one. It's gonna be set up. I know it's kind of dark, but that's all set up. Wires are pretty much jammed in there. I have everything wrapped with fabric tape so it shouldn't vibrate, and not including this one, which maybe I should continue or finish off the wrap on that. But I'm gonna send him through the top here, so I'm gonna cut a little slit in here so that I can have the USB coming out here. And I kind of want to do another one too. I guess maybe I'll do that at a later date. I could try to fish that through, because I'd like to eventually run the other one for the tuning up into there as well, just so I can have that nice plug to plug the tuner into the port that I have, the 2-gang USB, so that'll be nice. But otherwise, it's pretty good. I think it's going to be pretty nice, pretty clean. So I'm just going to set that up now. So I'm calling it quits for tonight. I got the console installed. You can see the box peeking back there. The clearance is pretty decent with the sub here. Not really that close to the heater box that I can tell. Yeah, no, it's pretty solid. I got like at least 3/4 of an inch or 5/8 or something like that of clearance, which is plenty of room. I mean, granted, you'd want more for sound capabilities, but I think it's not going to hit anything, which is what I care about. So it is what it is. It's as good as it's going to get. I ended up sealing up that door down there. There's like that rod that actuates the door, so I just cut the rod off and then put the door back up, and then put some sound deadening over the door. So that should all be good to go, and all this stuff fits nicely. This looks like it's sticking out a little bit, but I think that's just gonna, come down a little bit. Everything fits, and yeah, I'm happy. You can see in here is really the only evidence that it looks like there's anything going on, and you can see the box in there, and hopefully some of that port noise comes out of this hole here. I hope that it doesn't sound bad. Haven't tried it with this bolted on yet. So the subwoofer project is pretty much finished up. I've got it all installed here. Everything's really solidly mounted. A little bit of rock in the console itself, but overall it's not too bad. There's two 10mm that go through here, a couple of bolts, and those hold the front end pretty much from going side to side, which is nice. And then in the rear, the sub box is basically so tight in here that it supports the console. And there's two holes in the bottoms. I ran sheetrock screws into the box there just to hold the sides in, going alongside. So they kind of flare out over here. I'm gonna have to try to tuck those in somehow. Maybe affix it to the box down there with a little screw or something, because it's kind of next to the gas pedal, but it's really not in my way. Once the knee bolster goes on, it might keep it a little more out of my way. But anyway, it fits in there really tight. I did a lot of foam, a lot of sound deadening material to try to minimize all the vibrations and stuff. And I also sealed off the door down low. There's that little door that came down, and I had a setup where it was blocked off. And what I ended up doing was taking that piece off. There's two 7s, and that whole snout comes off down low. And then I deleted the whole ductwork coming back to here because, we don't really need these face vents in the rear. Nobody ever rides in the back of this. I mean, occasionally I may have somebody, and they'll just have to deal with the floor AC, and the cabin is not that large in here, so it'll be fine. It's not like an SUV or something. But anyway, yeah, I'm totally fine with losing that for what I gained here, which is like a really nice sub that jams. And in this area, in this airspace, it sounds really nice. For an 8, I'm really impressed by it. And it seems like it almost sounds like a 10 or 12, just in this small area, you know, where you'd normally have like a 12 in a back of a car where you wouldn't hear it as much. In the same airspace right next to you here, it sounds pretty good. But if I open this, you can see it is in here. Otherwise, you would really not know. This is modified slightly, but you can't even tell. Like, it still has all the depth to it because I just kind of put the mat on top of the wood in here. So it kind of just has like a normal slope to it. You can hardly tell until it like juts up in the back here where it's sitting on there. But this has full depth, so you're able to fully utilize the cup holders. I have all the mats that go in here. I gotta put that back in, but this is nice here. And once you open this, you can see I have the wood here. I've been thinking about doing like either felt or something on the bottom here. Not exactly sure what I want to do. I could try to build a little rubber mat too, but yeah, I don't know that I'm going to keep that much stuff in here because it probably is going to rattle. So I got to be mindful of what I keep in here because center console is not the best spot to have a big shaking box. I also may put some deadening material on this to keep this from rattling because I think this is any flat areas are more prone to rattling. So all the back sides of all this is all sound deadened. So this doesn't really rattle too much. But anyway, when it's all sealed off, you really can't tell that there's a big 8-inch sub in this box here inside of this console. And it's all really solid, like I said. So I'm pretty happy with the way it all came out. It's pretty sweet. I'll show you guys in the rear. If we get in back here, on top of my laptop, you'll see inside, this is where the box is inside of here. So you can see the I just kind of left it open just because I kind of need that area there for the port to breathe. Otherwise this box would kind of choke. I feel like it is a bit choked by this whole setup here, and that's just the nature of it. I think I would like to try it at some point with taking this whole back housing off. And when I take that off, I'll see if it gets louder. I think it will because I think it's definitely choked by the front being so close to the heater case, and the rear is all choked off by this. But at least I have these two vents here, and I have this. I was thinking about maybe trying to gut these vents out of here too, just to make a little more airspace in here, and just have it easier to flow. Even though it's going to look kind of ugly back here, I think it looks kind of cool to have this sub box in there. You know, you can kind of see in there to the sub. So I may work on just ripping these apart and you know, destroying that, which I don't really want to do, but I think, you know, sacrificing that, I don't really ever sit back here, so I don't care what that looks like. But yeah, pretty stoked. This thing is it really came a long way. It's sitting in here really nice. It's really secure. I have it bolted down in the bottom. Remember I showed you guys down there. So yeah, that's that. This is sub box coming to an end. I'll demo this thing for you guys at some point. I gotta find some nice royalty-free music that jams, and try to jam. But you're never gonna get the full idea from that. So anyway, I'll end this video here. Thank you guys for watching, and I appreciate it. Those of you that are watching that are just interested in the channel as a whole, I appreciate you guys. And I know there's a lot of people that watch for the Honda stuff, but this is what I'm doing too. So we got to do this stuff. And I want to go work on the Honda right now, actually. I want to get that thing ready. So if you're watching and you also enjoy the Honda content, then stay tuned because the Honda's coming out pretty soon. I got to get that thing back on the road. I miss it. So I'm going to go work on it right now. Just going to throw this video on to render and then post another one or whatever. And I'll talk to you guys soon. See you in the next one. Peace.